You too now.
31st of December, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Okay, so we are here. We are in Bava Kama. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, so we're in the middle over here with the ruling, made a ruling. Over here on Kuf Tez Zayin Amid base, 116b. And the Gemara is trying to figure out whether we could learn out from this ruling that he made. And the Gemara said that, well, if the ruling was based upon a din, then we could certainly learn out. That's the way he ruled. He ruled the din. And then the Gemara said, but if it was a knas, it was a penalty that was leveled, and that's what the basis of the ruling was. So then we cannot learn out. And then the Gemara said, where do we know that from? That you can't learn out from a knas, from a penalty. And we brought a brisa. Rishona Hayo Omrim. So we brought that brisa. Now we're already on Kuf Yod Zayin now. A round of applause for Kuf Tez Zayin Amid base. And now we're up on the top of Kuf Yod Zayin Amid Aleph. And the Gemara brought this brisa as a proof. And now the Gemara challenge, and now the Gemara says no, it's no proof from the brisa. Right, because we made a distinction between a hefsid meruba and a hefsid mu'at. Okay, so now I think we're up to ini. V'hotani avu the Rebbe of Avon. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines from the top of the page. On 117a. More says ini. Got the place, Alan?
No. What page did you say? 117A2, is it?
See the place, Phil?
You're starting with Eni?
Yeah.
You're 117A2 on the left column in the second paragraph down.
Left column?
Yeah, left column, second one down for Eni.
Second one down.
There's
You'll
there's some words before that, thus the Bryce is separate mention. And then Rav Huna, it says Ini. So it's on the second column, 117, left 117A2, second column.
Ini. Got the place, Alan?
No, what's the first word?
You're in the second paragraph,
Okay,
where it says thus, and then some preliminary, then Rav Huna, the first word is Ini, is the Hebrew word in the
that's
left.
the Bryce is a separate mention, is that it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Good.
I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, thus the Bryce is separate mention of one who mixes truma into someone's chulin was not due to some general rule regarding fines, but to its amended understanding of this decree. Therefore, the Bryce cannot be construed as an indication that we generally do not extend a fine imposed on one case to another similar case. That's interesting. Right? You don't use the same fine for two similar cases.
Um, okay, yeah. Okay, let's see what the Gemara says further. Tani Abud Rebbe Avin. Alan?
Was it Mia Cora Survey Ray Baror Bo Orvine? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Orvine. All right, I'll start again. This originally held in accordance with Rabbi Avin. The Mar Rabbi Orvine, Rabbi Avin said, "Zera chetz mita che las our ba of the self the self our ba for a beginning from the beginning, from the Sabbath on the public domain, that act and stretch four amma of a four end to the end, stretch amma and the core ra she roa in so penalty death the carries strange wording carries
This is
carries
this is
and the arrow tore someone's silk as it traveled he is exempt from paying the silks. Shaharei Roa Soreh Honichor for the Akira of the arrow, i.e., taking flight, is a prerequisite of a Hanach, i.e., is coming to rest. Benis Herev, Benis Show, and is thus a part of the act to which he is liable. Although the moment in which he becomes liable to pay for the silk, while the arrow was in flight, preceded the moment in which he became liable to the death penalty when it landed. We nevertheless view these liabilities as having been incurred simultaneously, since the arrow's flight and the Akira as essentially to its landing, the Hanukkah, when one incurs a monetary liability simultaneously with the capital offense, becomes exempt from the monetary obligation. Therefore, the speller was exempt from paying the silks. Likewise, in the case of one who renders someone's wine misach, as soon as he lifts the wine, he has committed an act of theft, which he incurs a monetary liability. True, he becomes liable to the death penalty for idol worship only later when he pours the wine as libation for the idol. Still, since he must lift the wine to perform the libation, the act of idol worship is considered to have been begun with the lifting of the wine. It therefore exempts him from paying for the simultaneous act of theft. The Tanaim of the Breiser at first held like Rabbi Avin. They therefore assume that one who renders someone's wine nesek is exempt. Ulav self, Sivarei, Karabi, more, but in the end they held like Rabbi Yerma. To Rabbi Yerma, more for Rabbi Yeremiah said regarding one who renders someone's wine nesach, Mishas Hagamor Kanaye. For the moment he lifted the wine, he acquired it as stolen property. Havam lay woman and immediately became liable to pay the money for having stolen it. Michaviv, Benafsho, Lo, Hole, Ad, Sha'ad, Yishuf, but he's not liable to pay with his life until the moment he pours the wine. This means that he did not become liable to the death penalty until after he became liable to pay. Therefore, he is liable to pay for the wine he rendered in the nesach. So
Okay.
be careful acquiring wine.
What's that?
He said, be careful if you acquire some wine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so the Gemara says, Ini, is it so? Is it so? V'hatani avud Rabbi Avin. Rishona hayu omrim hamatame v'hamitameya. Oh, so it looks like he has a different version of the whole Raisa. Okay, it's a bit of it's an important detail. Important detail over here. The whole basis of the Gemara saying that we won't have a proof from this Brisa is because the third case that the Chazal wanted to institute after the first two were already in place was the case of Midameya, of mixing truma together with chulin. And the Gemara said, if we could learn out from a knas, why would the Brisa need to say that only subsequently did they say that this case of Midameya was also going to be chayav, to pay, to compensate, because it's also essentially the same case of hezek sheino nicker, of causing damage which is not apparent. So, but the Gemora said no, it's not comparable. The Gemora, the Brisa, you ordinarily we would have been able to learn out from a kanas, but this case was not learn outable, because the first two cases we're talking about a hefsid meruba, and this case is talking about a hefsid muat. So that's why we weren't able to learn out, but not because in general it's not capable of learning out from a case of a knas. On that, the Gemara is challenging that with ini, because we have a teaching from Rabbi Avua, the Rabbi Avin, the father of Rabbi Avin, and he says that the Brisa was different. He says that in the beginning, we already learned out Hamatame and Hamadameya. Both of those cases were already chayav. And only subsequent to that did they include a third case of Manasseh. And like that, if you notice the case of Medameya, that's the case where we said that he can in any case sell it to a Kohen. The hezek that's not nicker. So it's not a total loss, it's only a hefsid muat. Whereas the case of Metameh is a total loss. Hefsid meruba al koponim. It's a big loss, as opposed to a not so big loss. And we learned both of those cases already they already legislated those two cases. So those two cases involve the both kinds of hezek she'eino nicker, meaning a damage which is not apparent to the eye, whether it be a significant damage, a hefsid meruba, as in the case of Metame, or it be only a case of hefsid muat, a minor amount of damage, because it could be sold in any case to a Kohen after it was mixed, the truma and the chulin. That's the case of Medameya. Both of those cases were already learned out. We're already legislated by the Chachamim in the Brisa, and so therefore the third case of Manasseh also involves a hefsid meruba, because no one can use wine that was used now for libation to a avodah zarah, not a Jew, and it can't even be sold to a non-Jew because it's asur b'hana, can't have any benefit from it whatsoever. Even if you can't drink it, you can't sell it to anyone. So that's regarded as a hefsid meruba. That should be a case that could be derived from the first two that were already legislated, and wouldn't need to have a second legislation. And so therefore that's what the Gemora says, chazru in lo chazru lo. It's only because they did make this second stage legislation that the din by Manasseh is that there's going to be liability for it. And so therefore we can derive very, very well. My Taima asked the Gemora, why is that they needed to have a second stage of legislation for Manasseh? Lav bishum de lo gamrinin miknasa. Is it not because that you simply cannot learn out from one case that involved a penalty to another case that involves a penalty, even if the cases were basically more or less the same similar type of a case, meaning that these two factors that we're talking about over here of hefsed sheno nicker. It's a not unperceptible damage. You can't see it with the eye. And also, it's even a damage which is a significant one. Hefsed meruba. You can't. It's also behind this yain now. So it would seem the only reason you can't learn it out is because you just simply cannot learn out from a case of knas. That's what we're holding, and on that the Gemara answers and says, "Lo." The reason we're going to explain an alternative way of understanding why we needed to have that second stage of legislation in the case of Manasseh, in spite of the fact that, as a general rule, if the cases were basically the same case, the fact that it was a knas that was imposed, it's not a din Torah. Nevertheless, we could learn out from a knas. So, Lou, would you like to take over?
Low.
Or do we have Rashi? Maybe let's. But Lou's going to read. It depends on whether it's whether it's a Rashi to read or whether it's the Gemora to read.
Well, I started saying low. I thought I was
Okay.
Nobody got it.
So if you got the place, that's important. So let's just go with that.
Low. No, that's not the reason. Me'ikara savre ki Rebbe Avin. Rather, it is because they originally held in accordance with Rebbe Avin. I'll read the English. They therefore assumed that one who renders someone's wine nesek is not included in the decree. Ule vasof sivrei ki Rebbe Yirmiyah. But in the end, they thought like Rebbe Yirmiyah. They agree with Rebbe Yirmiyah. Thus, they came to realize that this person too is included in the decree.
Okay. Any Rashis over here? Af hamanasech lo chazru lo. I think we didn't do that yet. Or af hamanasech lo chazru lo. Yeah, no, we should do that. We should do that.
That's
That was
that's what we just read.
yeah. Phil, you want to do that? Rashi?
I'm trying to find where you're at, because it's such a thing.
It's right across from the
From the Bach?
Yeah.
Low?
yeah, right next to the Bach.
If it's Nasa, is low, Hazrulo, you don't return it to him. Don't return it. Low. Gomrinin, we learn it from wine, from Nesa. Afal Gav, even though the Hafsido Marubo, even though it's a large loss, it's a greater loss, May Madama, than it is for Truma. Uma'ad Hafsinan, it's a smaller loss. It's muad, it's smaller. Lagabe Menesech, and that means regarding the Nesech. It almost sounds like it's the opposite thing.
Okay, so let's the Dibra Maskil is very difficult to understand. What the Dibra Maskil is referring to is when the Gemora brought the version of the Brisa according to Rebbe, according to Avua, the Rebbe Avin. We don't call him by the name of Rebbe. We just call him, he's the father of Rebbe Avin. The father of Rebbe Avin learned that the Chazru was referring to the second stage of legislation regarding the Manasseh, the one that was used the wine for libation to Avodah Zarah. And he will be chayav for that, even though it's a hezek, which is not nicker. It's an undiscernible hezek, and even though it's a hefsid meruba, so it's in that case it's similar on both points to the case of Matame. So and when the Gemora picks up after that and says Chazru in lo Chazru lo, and what that means in the Gemora is that the din will be that the guy who did that is chayiv based upon the fact that the Rabbanan were choser. They subsequently turned around and made a second legislation of Manasseh. But lo chazru, if they wouldn't have done that, then you would not be able to infer that Manasseh was chayiv, which indicates, according to that, the Gemara says, "My timer. Why would you not be able to? Why would he not be chayiv? Because lav mishum delo gamrin miknasa. Isn't not because we cannot learn out from a knas." So Rashi says over here, Af Manasseh chule lo ichazru. If they wouldn't have subsequently made this second legislation of the Manasseh, the din of Manasseh would be that it would not be chayiv. It's a run on Rashi. Lo gamrinan Manasseh. We would not have learned. It's a run on Rashi. This that it says lo is lo gamrinan Manasseh. We would not have derived the ruling for Manasseh being chayiv from the previous two cases that were legislated. And Rashi points out the chiddush of this. Apogav dehefsedo meruba. Even though the Manasseh is a case of hefsid meruba. Mi middameya. Even though it's a greater hefsid even than the case of midameya, which the Gemora, which the Brisa already told us was chayiv. Even for a hefsid mu'at, there's liability. So it's afugav de hefsedo meruba mimadameya u mitame. And not only that, it's even greater than the case of mitame. When somebody makes tame somebody's truma. The hefsidon muat legabe Manasseh. That relatively speaking, says Rashi, the hefsid of both of those cases of making tame somebody's truma or mixing up somebody's truma with chulin, or the vice versa, mixing up somebody's chulin with truma, those cases is a hefsid which is muat in relation to Manasseh. Manasseh is a total loss. It's asur b'hanoah completely. So therefore, if we already legislated compensation in a case of a hefsid muat, certainly we would have done so in the case of a greater hefsid, there'd be no reason not to. That's what Rashi's point is. And so therefore, even though the logic would dictate that we should be able to say that the case of Menasek is chayav, nevertheless, there was a need to legislate it that it's chayav. Because why? Because you can't learn out from a legislated case of knas to other cases of knas. You can't learn out from a knas. From that's what the Gemora wanted to prove at that point. So on that, the Gemora says, no, that's not constitute a proof. Doesn't constitute a proof. Because why? Because originally the Gemara thought like Rabbi Avin, and then and as a result of that, they would have exempted the Manasseh and Levasov. The end, but finally they came around to the view of Rabbi Yirmiyah, and therefore they were Machayev, the Manasseh. Okay, so this is
Why
not.
did they change your mind?
Why did they change their mind?
Yeah, originally they agreed with one person, then finally they agreed with another person, but it doesn't say why they changed from one to the other.
Well, I don't even understand why they would. Okay, yeah, okay, that's what they're saying. You mean, why did they change their mind? Why are they wishy-washy?
Well, I mean,
Sometimes they change their mind.
I'm not saying they're wishy-washy. I'm saying it doesn't tell me anything. To tell me originally they agreed with Rabbi Avin, and then finally they agreed with Rabbi Yirmiyah. It doesn't tell me anything about their thought process.
Why did they do like this, and why do you know that? Well, that we have to read further on in the Gemara.
Oh, okay.
The Gemara is going to go into this right now.
Oh,
To
I see.
explain what it is that how do we understand that they originally thought like one way, and then they thought a different way.
Okay, I see. I was just premature in my question.
Okay, so now we read Meikara, Sabre Karebi Avin. Okay, who wants to read this one? Let's see. Alan, you want to try?
Yeah, I'm sort of lost as to where we are. The Gemara recounts.
117A2, right-hand column, third paragraph. The Gemara explains.
All right, hold it. All right, the Gemara explains. They originally held, in accordance with Rabbi Avin, the Omar Rabbi Avin. Rabbi Avin said, Zorak Chetz, Mita Elas, live self, believe self, our bar, one shot an arrow in the public domain on the Sabbath from the beginning of a 4-mile stretch to the end of a 4-mile stretch, an act that carries the death penalty. The Korav Rave Woho, and the arrow tore someone's silks as it traveled. Porta, he is exempt from paying the silks. For the silks. Ray Ekor, so Chasi, for the Akira of the arrow, i.e., its flight, its taking flight is prerequisite of a Hanacha, i.e., it's coming to rest. Uma Sal Chayiv Benesho, and is thus a part of the act for which he is liable to pay with his life. Although the moment in which he becomes liable to pay for the silks, while arrow was in flight, preceded the moment in which he became liable to the death penalty when it landed. We nevertheless view these liabilities as having been occurred simultaneously, since the arrow's flight, the Akira, essential to its landing, the Hanaka, when one incurs a monetary liability simultaneously with a capital offense, it becomes exempt from the monetary obligation. Therefore, this fellow is exempt from paying for the silks. Likewise, in the case of one who renders someone's wine nesek, as soon as he lifts the wine, he has committed an act of theft for which he incurred a monetary liability. Thus, he becomes liable to the death penalty for idol worship only later, when he pours the wine as a libation for the idol. Since still he must lift the wine to perform the libation, the act of idol worship is considered to have begun with the lifting of the wine. It therefore exempts him from paying the simultaneous act of theft. The Tanaim of the Brisa at first held like Rabbi Avin. They therefore assume that one who renders someone's wine nesek is exempt. Believe Basof Savirei Rabbi Yirma, but in the end they held like Rabbi Yirma. The more Rabbi Yirma Uyor, Rabbi Yirma said regarding one who renders someone's wine nesek, mish ace Bohor Kaviyeh. From the moment he lifted the wine, he acquired it as stolen property. Lay Mormon, and immediately becomes liable to pay money for having stolen it. Miss Chayrev bin Pasho Lo Ray Ad Sha'ah the thief, but he's not liable to pay with his life until the moment he pours the wine. This means that he did not become liable to the death penalty until after he becomes liable to pay. Therefore, he is liable to pay for the wine he rendered a nesek.
Okay, good. Let's take a look at Rashi, Zorak Chetz, and the Kirat Sorach Hanacha. You have time? 3 minutes.
Me or Phil?
Oh, whoever wants to read. I don't remember who was the last one that read.
Phil was. I'll read. Zorach Chetz. Bishabbat.
Right.
So that's the shooting of the arrow.
Right.
Okay. Akira. Tzorach. Chanicha. The Kaban de Bain Akira. Lahanacha Kara Nimtza May Asa Shabbat Asa Akira Be'en Ke'achad Velo Amrinan Mi Shas Akira Chayev Mamon Mis Chayev bin Nafsho Lo Hayu Ad Sha'as Ha Nachas Chain V'hacha nami, v'hecha nami, hagiv as yayin, tzarich nisoch hu v'chash lo min mechayev misa. The ayin zayin be'ain ka'echad. I don't know. You're gonna have to work through that this long Rashi, Rabbi. There's too many words I don't know.
Okay. So, shall we? We'll leave this for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where's Shem?
Sorry, basically, because there are two things involved on this. The two questions are, number one, when you do an action on Shabbos, to be liable to change domains, there has to be leaving the domain, which is the arika, when you throw something out, and hanachar, it has to land somewhere. If you only do one out of the two, you're not chayiv. So that's part of this thing. And they're trying to compare it to the Yayin Nesach. And the Yayin Nesach is saying it's one thing picking it up, which is the same as the Akira starting it, you don't get the penalty until nisuch, that you actually pour it. There has to be a double action thing. You can't just have half of an action. And that's what the Rashis are talking about. Sorry, I had to put it on silent before because of the phone ringing, which I don't even know what it is. I just love to go. Okay, we'll finish tomorrow.